Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, good morning to everyone. I hope you can hear me. I just want to tell you that today we are in for a great treat as we are going to have our experienced trader and so much more entrepreneur speaking to us, Ricardo Chambers, also known as Rick C., founder of Value Circle. Rick is a full-time options trader. He is also a cryptocurrency and stock investor. Some of you who are familiar with Clubhouse, which is an app that many persons use, and you can find him there in the mornings as he shares insights on trading and investment. Rick, I know that you have a lot to share with the Jamaican women of Florida and our guests. I'm not going to just say Jamaican women of Florida, but also the men who may be present today's session. So I'm going to just welcome you once again with a JWOF welcome. I'm going to give you the floor now. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Monique. Great morning to everyone. As I'm taking a look at the comments here, there are a few people from Clubhouse. I see Maxine saying hi. I'm from Clubhouse. And everyone else, Joy, Sophia. Just shout out to everyone that's here, all the women. And it's National Women's History Month. So, I'm excited to be here. I'm just, grateful to be a part of something so special where, we're coming together and, we're educating, right, each other essentially. I'm here as a speaker, but I'm pretty sure there are folks here in the audience that, might have some stuff, right, that be able to, we'd be able to learn from as well. So I like to say I'm a student to the game, but, most importantly, I'm here to, deliver not just, knowledge or feedback for folks that are essentially interested, in whether stocks or it might be options or cryptocurrency, but, I think there's a lot of talk about closing the wealth gap, so to speak, right? And generational wealth and moving our culture forward. And that starts with us gaining the knowledge and information that's out there that will help us close the gap. But I think most importantly, passing it on to the younger generation, not just giving them the information, but helping them get set, right? So I'm happy to be here. Before we get into the thick things, I want to start off with a quote from Maya Angelou. And it says, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." Okay, so I want to start us off with that here today. So a little bit about myself. Born and raised half of my life in Jamaica, Ocho Rios, Jamaica. St. Anne, I brought it out with the parish for those of us that's, from Jamaica. And, essentially I attended Ocho Rios Primary, went to York Castle High on a scholarship from NCB. My mom worked at NCB for many years. And, it was great. It was fun times. Came to America at the age of 15, and here I am today, essentially. My journey, a lot of people are probably, wondering, how did I get involved with trading and investing? So my background, I worked retail for many years. A lot of big box retail companies, names like Staples, Home Depot, CVS Health, worked in upper management positions. My last position was with CVS Health. I was what was titled as training store manager. So I was responsible for running a 24-hour store that did about $14 million in sales for the year. We were like the second store in, the district, ran the, number one customer service store in the entire NYC region, which consists of stores in Manhattan, Bronx, Queens. So, from a leadership perspective, I've gained a lot of leadership knowledge through, working, in a retail environment. But while I'm attaching that to my experience with investing and trading, I was intrigued in 2008 when we had the financial crisis. For folks that probably remember or understand what I'm talking about, we saw an economic catastrophe. where many big name banks went under. Folks lost their homes, right? One of the worst times in history, very close to a depression, so to speak. And I was fortunate to have a job at that point in time. I worked at Staples as an assistant manager. And at that time, as a part of compensation packages, we were able to get stock options, purchase stocks and get it at a discount. So that's where, my interest started to peak around that time when I saw big name companies went from hundreds of dollars to essentially pennies. And I was like, wow, how could that happen? So I started to dig and I started to do some research. And I realized that on average, every 8 to 10 years or so, we have somewhat of an economic correction, I would call it, whether what was witnessed in 2008 as the economic crisis, or in the 1990s, the dot-com, and then most recently we're still experiencing COVID, right? The entire world went on a shutdown, and it wasn't only the U.S. stock market that was affected; it was the entire world markets. Everyone all over the world felt the pain, and for many folks, they were confused. Not many knew what to do, but I can tell you that was a time for the folks that understood what investing was all about for the long term, took advantage of the opportunity and got involved with stocks and investing. So in 2008, when I started, essentially, I knew nothing, but I was so excited with the information that I came across, and I just jumped right in. And I remember I got a bonus check from Staples for about $5,000, and I opened up an E-Trade account, and I dumped everything inside that account. Long and behold, the first 15 minutes of the market, and why I share this because I love to be fully transparent, I saw $5,000 turn to $2,500. I was shocked, but I didn't quit because I knew that the route that I took wasn't the right. I didn't take the time to educate myself on what investing was about. I pretty much got caught in a pump and dump scheme where I got a list of stocks, didn't do my due diligence, and I just threw money inside. And why I share that, because it's important, because the narrative around the stock market a lot of times is that, people lose money, right? But the story is left untold when we don't give the full details or we aren't transparent. And I'm here today to share my experience with you guys, to educate you guys. I've gotten to a point where I've become a full-time stock and options trader, primarily trading options, where I have a long-term investment portfolio with value stocks and growth stocks that I'll essentially be able to pass down to my kids. Cryptocurrency as well, as was touched on. Try not to go too deep in that because it's still a fairly new space, which is somewhat speculative. But I strongly feel, based on the research and the due diligence that I've done and where the world is going with technology, that cryptocurrency will be the future. More essentially, the technology that powers cryptocurrency, which is blockchain. So just to wrap it up, that's a little bit about me. I'm pretty sure we're going to get into some Q&A. As I'll just pass the mic back to Monique so she can take the lead and I'll follow. Thank you.
So right away, I want to jump in and just share one of the comments that were just made in the chat here, and it's about the risk. Some of us are afraid of taking that leap because of the risk of losing money. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So, with any investment, whether it's opening up a business or investing money in stocks or any assets, the risk that's involved, it's one where we need to sit down and ask ourselves, what kind of risk are we taking? Is it the kind of risk where we're going to, where to put money inside, investment vehicle or assets where if there's something that goes wrong, right, we lose everything completely? I think that's the thing that we need to ask ourselves with. So when it comes to investing in risk, one thing I want to, encourage everyone, right, is to make sure that whatever you're considering to invest, it's not money that you would need to pay your rent, emergency funds. Investing can be a way of saving money, right, so to speak, for the long term. So let's kind of tie it back to stocks because that's mostly, what my expertise are, so to speak, right? When we talk about investing in stocks, you're really buying into companies that you know and you trust because they're established companies, right? And I could throw names out there that, you know, very popular. Technology companies like Apple, right? Companies like Johnson and Johnson, right? Where we use a ton of their products, okay? Um, the risk that's associated with investing is that we've seen, especially when the market conditions or the economy is not cooperating in a way where, you know, people are either losing jobs or, you know, things aren't going right overall. The market tends to take, you know, a downward movement, so to speak, where prices of companies correct, right? So you'll see a stock price, you know, a stock loses its price, so to speak, it loses value in price, so to speak. But a lot of people probably panic and look to sell the stock, right? And that's the risk that's associated with it, because the minute you sell, you buy at a higher price and then you sell at a lower price, thinking that you're actually losing money. You don't lose until you actually execute a sale. So going back to just risk in general, you always got to keep in mind that whatever you put in, whether it's stocks or any kind of investment or asset, you should go in with the mindset that you're okay with knowing that if you lose everything that you're putting in, you won't lose sleep at night to begin with. And it's not to say that's going to happen, but what that does, it takes the emotions out of it. And a lot of times that's what happens. People get emotional and they make the wrong move, right? They tend to get into investments whenever they hear about it and there's excitement and euphoria, and they tend to buy at the highest prices. And then whenever there's somewhat of a correction or a change in the marketplace where prices now get lower for a short-term period, they get scared and they sell. But I challenge anyone after today, historically, take a look at stocks that's been in the marketplace for many, many years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and look at the chart. And you'll see historically that prices tend to go up over time. But the problem is, especially with stocks, if you're looking to invest in a short-term period, because of volatility on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis, prices do not give you that stable upward movement. They gyrate a lot. And I think that's what throws a lot of people off.
Some folks in the chat asking questions like, how did you get, you spoke about what made you get started. Now we would like to of how does it look for you in a day? What does your day look like?
Awesome. That's a great question. So, you know, when I started back then, I worked a part-time job for quite some time. Well, full-time job, I'm sorry, for quite some time while trading part-time. So, you know, I wasn't really I was to a point where I didn't really fully understand what investing was versus short-term trading for profits. Meaning, you can get up on any given day when the markets are open, the U.S. markets, Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 4 p.m., and you could go out and make trades for the day, for the week, where you're just buying and selling equities or stocks, right? But that's what I did a lot back then. But doing it part-time, taking small positions, you know, taking my gains over time. But I realized that with trading, I wasn't really building. And that's what a lot of people need to understand, that going out and trading for short-term profits, it's almost like having a 9 to 5. You have to get up, you have to watch the market, and you need to be able to be making those daily moves to be profitable. But there's another side to where you put money in the market long term by buying, again, good companies, and you're holding and you're letting them appreciate in price over time. So in 2018, you know, I was to a point where I was able to step away from my full-time job to now trade and invest full-time. So what my day looks like, I get up anywhere between 4 a.m. And 6 a.m., depending on what's going on in the week with the markets. And I watch. I have a watch list that's prepared if I'm going to make a day trade, which is, again, looking to go in the market and buy and sell a position for the day and make some short-term profits for that day. So I have a trading plan that's ready, which from the previous night I'm preparing, looking at stocks, looking at what's called technical analysis. So when you're looking to be a day trader or a person that gets up and trade on a daily or weekly basis, you need to be you need to understand technical analysis. So there are two parts when it comes to trading and investing: understanding technical analysis and understanding fundamental analysis. The technical analysis really just gives you an idea of what the short-term price movement of a stock will be like. Fundamental analysis gives you a picture of the company that you're looking to invest in, how stable it might or might not be from a financial standpoint, from a standpoint of the products and services that they offer, how well those are doing, is a company innovative, just different things like that. So that's what my day consists of after market closes and before markets open up, doing the research, going in and making my trades.
So I see some more questions, and I also have some questions as well. One of the questions I see here is, do you think that cash won't have value and crypto and other sources will become funding?
That's a great question. And again, if you look at the buying power all the way back to the 1980s, cash has consistently lost its value because of inflation, right? So it's just a fact, not even just my opinion. I won't go off on a ledge and just say cash will become non-existent. But if you look over time, we're continuing to move towards more of a cashless system, whether it's credit cards, obviously, the fintech space, which is getting big. A lot of people are taking notice, right? When we talk about fintech, financial, technology services, right? People are aware of the cash apps, the PayPal, and so on and so forth. So, tying that back into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general, I wouldn't say to focus on it in terms of it taking over and being a currency, so to speak, that would replace cash. What I would pay attention to is because of the noise that cryptocurrency has been making, that governments around the world and central banks will now make it a focus to create they're in the process of creating their own digital currency. So digital currency in general, I think from my perspective, from my opinion, and just the research that I'm doing, will someday down the line, many years away from now, will replace cash, in my opinion.
All great questions, all great responses here, Rick. So one of the questions I have for you, and I know that there are others here in the chat who have the same question, is what are some things we should research? For example, what are good brokerage apps out there? What do you recommend one is to research to educate themselves?
Well, it depends on what kind of research that we're talking about, right? But one of my favorite places to go to do research or educate yourself. I think a lot of the times folks get tripped up because of the I'm sorry, I see someone says no volume. Just want to make sure. Can everyone hear me? I'm looking at the chat.
Just saw it too. Is it better now, Sophia? Okay, perfect. Awesome.
All right. So, a lot of different places that we can go. So specifically, I like Investopedia, right? Very broad. So with Investopedia, it won't allow you to research like individual or specific stocks, right? What it does, it allows you to understand just in general anything you could think of when it comes to investing, whether it's stocks, options, even some cryptocurrency stuff, anything that has to do with investing in the markets in general. Now, when we talk about research for stocks, so to speak, it depends. So one of my favorite places to go, like we talk about stocks, there are also ETFs, which are exchange traded funds, which are like stocks, right? Where instead of buying, a lot of people are scared to go out there and buy like individual stocks, right? So let's say, for example, you would want exposure to like a particular sector, right? Let's say just technology. There are ETFs out there that have technology stocks listed inside of them, where you could go out there and buy that particular ETF, right? So here's one place I like to go that gives you a bunch of that stuff, especially, and I bring this up because a lot of folks that are starting out, this is a really good place to start. Start with ETFs versus trying to go out there and buy individual stocks. It's called ETF. I'm going to say etfdb.com. So let me repeat that. That's etfdb.com. Okay. Now, when it comes to stocks in general, another place to do research, phenomenal one is called barcharts.com. Bar charts, it's full of stuff like, you could find out, information from a fundamental perspective, from a technical perspective, right? The whole entire works. You get to see market updates on a day-to-day basis in real time as well. So those two places are two that I could think of off the top of my head. When it comes to apps, I would encourage folks to more so focus on the brokerage firms, so to speak, right? So a popular one, which is Robinhood, right? Where obviously you could go ahead and you could start investing and stuff like that, right? With cryptocurrency, we got Coinbase. Well, for me personally, I use brokerage firms such as TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim, and for everyone that's international, they do offer access to clients that are international. There are some restrictions based on what country you're in, but they're really good with that. And all of these brokerages that I'm listing, they have tools that's on their platform. Okay, so TD Ameritrade is really good with educational tools, whether you want to learn about stocks, whether you want to learn how to trade options, whether you want to learn about technical analysis, fundamental analysis. I love TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim. And yes, they do have an app as well.
So questions here that I'm going to tie together actually. The question is, what advice do you have for a beginner? And we have another question that is related that says, what is a list of technological advances and companies responsible for creating cryptocurrency that we should study or possibly invest in? You mentioned one in the beginning. So again, what advice do you have for a beginner? And again, what technological advances or companies responsible for creating cryptocurrency should one invest in or look into?
Great question. So when it comes to the beginner piece, I would say don't let the excitement of just the information that you come across push you just to jump in without learning first. Okay. As cliche as it may sound, you need to take the opportunity, give yourself about, I would say, a month to 3 months to develop a habit where you practice to get in a routine of, first, creating watch lists, right? And I think that's important because a lot of times, folks get overwhelmed with the information that's out there. There's so many stocks to invest in, right? So many companies. You have to narrow that down. So my advice, try to keep it in a range of 5 to 10 stocks to begin with. Learn about those companies, learn about what makes them move in terms of price, right? And then you now take it to a point where you need to make the decision that you're either going to become a trader or an investor. And you can become both. But I challenge you not to try to take on both of them at once. Okay? You want to be either, I would say my recommendation is learn to invest first before you jump into trading. Trading can be overwhelming, right? Great reward in the short term. But when you start investing, I think it makes you a little bit more comfortable with going out there and not feeling overwhelmed with everything that's going on in the market because you built some kind of fundamental behind learning how to invest first. So that's my feedback for a beginner. Get up to speed with the educational piece first, right? With learning, taking advantage of, resources, okay? Whether through it's people that you know or a mentor or groups that have the information that they could pass on to you and, help you along. There's so many. And again, for example, talking about Clubhouse, we do a daily show in the morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. to get folks up to speed and help them to be comfortable with going out there on a day-to-day basis, participate in the markets, right? Things as small as that could get you started or get you comfortable. Because back then when I started, there weren't too many resources at all. It was really just digging and trying to piece things from all over the place. Now, to move on to the cryptocurrency piece, you know, I would say in terms of companies, you want to look into the cryptocurrencies themselves, right? CoinMarketCap is a good place to start. CoinMarketCap.com gives you a list of thousands of cryptocurrencies that are out there. And when you come across those cryptocurrencies, each individual one, there's a thing called the white paper. So when you go to coinmarketcap.com, you could select the cryptocurrency that you're interested in, and then you go and you essentially read the white paper. What the white paper does, it's that it's giving you a breakdown of pretty much what the company or the developers intend to do with that particular cryptocurrency from a use case perspective. Each cryptocurrency should be or is created to solve a problem. And if when you read what the white paper is telling you, if that currency doesn't seem like there's an actual use case for it, that it's going to solve some kind of problem, 9 out of 10 times, that's not something I probably want to invest in, right? And then just going back, there are companies out there in the stock market that are tied to cryptocurrencies such as Mara and Riot. That's M-A-R-A, ticker symbol M-A-R-A, and Riot, R-I-O-T.
All right. I have another question here for you. Can you tell us what are some cons to the business, if any? I mean, we know there's a con in terms of many people are, afraid to take that first step. There's that con, afraid to lose money. What else are there as cons?
As cons, freedom, right? When you're financially educated and you know how to use money as a tool to let the money work for you, so to speak, and make more money, you know, there's one of the things I cherish the most is my free time that I'm able to spend with my family and friends, right, and loved ones. And after a while, you realize that the way that we were taught to look at money, so to speak, as a way of, attaining things, right, assets or material things, you realize that after a while, that stuff doesn't really matter. When I look back at the hours that I used to work at my job, and the events that I missed, whether family events or time that I didn't get to spend with my kids, having the free time that I have right now, man, I wish that everyone out there was able to experience that, right? And not just the freedom, but also knowing that I'll be able to pass this down, right? We talk again about building generational wealth. And I think most importantly, being able to have assets that we can pass down to the younger generation, whether family members or relatives, that's more powerful than anything else that you could think about, right? Because how many of us that are here on this, a call, a webinar right now, on the conference, essentially, I should say, that could sit back and say, I wish, right, that my family, whether mom, dad, grandparents, great grandparents, had the knowledge and the opportunity, because it's not just about the knowledge, it's the opportunity that they did not have back then that we have now in this day and age because of technology. Like right now, all of us could just go on our devices and open up a brokerage account, right? Just like opening up a bank account. So we talk about access right now. Having that access, it gives us the ability to go out there and start seeking the knowledge to be able to start building a legacy to build that generational wealth.
All right. So I know that it's been, we've provided responses in the chat, but how can people find you, Rick? I know you're on Clubhouse. You have a session there. What's the name of that session? How can we find you?
Thank you for the question and allow me to put that out there. So, I'm mostly active on my Instagram, which is my handle, Rick the Mentor. So that's Rick the Mentor on Instagram. And it's also the same on Clubhouse, Rick the Mentor. And Clubhouse, I would say, you know, founded a club called the Value Circle. And, you know, this is just the beginning of something that I'm ultimately trying to create with a group of folks where we're looking to have an impact on a global level.
And that's Monday through Friday, correct? 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.?
Yes, yes, that is correct, Monique. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
All right, very good. So I'm going to ask those of you in the audience, if you have questions, you can continue to put them in the chat. Is there anyone who'd like to come on screen and ask Rick any questions? And while you're thinking about that, there's another question here that I'm going to ask, and that is, folks are asking, do you offer any other types of workshops besides the one that you have, the Value Circle? How else can we listen to this great knowledge that you have for us?
So that is the goal of the Value Circle. So I do like one-on-one, mentorship. I do like consults and stuff like that. And again, I like to offer value. So I don't even like talking about my paid services as much as, because again, it's not going to be for everyone. So I can tell everyone, if you want to just talk to me to even, pick my brain, know more about what we got coming on. So the Value Circle, and I can't talk too much about it because of what we're working on behind the scenes. We're really trying to work on building a community for things like this, for folks that want to have the access to not just myself, but the great minds that are out there who can provide the information that you guys are looking for on a massive scale where it could be, we talk about access, we want it to be accessible, right? To everyone, going back to whether, mostly, and I'm gonna be honest, mostly are underserved communities, right? Because the folks that, have the access, to whether, the resources, whether, from a monetary perspective or anything, those folks are pretty much fine for the most part, right? Not that we're trying to leave them behind, because I'm all about inclusivity, right? And diversity. So, but I want to focus on the underserved communities because I know what that's like to not have the access. So please staying in tune with me, whether my Instagram or on Clubhouse, and you guys will be able to know more about that. But now you guys could go in the link in my bio and book it's called a one-on-one value consult, and I offer 15 minutes calls during the time slots that are available. If you are international, would probably need to connect via WhatsApp, or if I do a Zoom, I'll definitely try to figure it out. I've been talking to folks from the UK, folks from Canada. There's different places all over the world outside of the US as well. So go to my Instagram, look at the link in my bio in the link tree, and it's the Value Consult. And I'm willing to talk to any and everyone that could find a slot on my calendar for free.
Before I get to you, Adriana, as Dean of Libraries and Academic Success Centers at Broward College, I have to ask you this question. What articles do you read? What articles do you recommend that persons who are interested in investment and trading read, or are there any news updates that they should be looking into? Can you share with us?
That's an awesome question. So you talked about apps earlier, Monique, and thank you for the question. I'm not able to see the name. I'm assuming it's this wonderful young lady that's in front of us. That's your question?
Yes.
Okay, welcome. And thank you for the question. So I would say start with, there's a book that I love so much. It's called The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, right? And everybody that's listening, it's a book that it will just open up your mind if you read that book. And then it's going to lead you down a rabbit hole while, getting you the understanding of what it's like to really dive deep and dig into what investing is about. And then in terms of just news and updates, CNBC app, that's one, right? On a daily basis, it keeps you up to date what's going on with the market by the minute at times, right? Okay. I'm going to give you throw about two more out there. And I spoke about bar chart. For folks that's listening, don't sleep on bar chart. Like, I love it, right? I spoke about Investopedia as well. Investopedia is really powerful, guys. And then Seeking Alpha. So what Seeking Alpha does is that you'll find, a lot of information about companies, right? You'll get analysts that's doing, and I'm sorry, as I'm talking here, my calendar is going off. So I'm excited. People are taking advantage of booking a consult. So Seeking Alpha, right, you'll be able to find the perspective of analysts and folks from Wall Street, right, about, you know, their take on different stocks. And what I love about it is that you don't just get to hear or, you know, read about one side, right? You have what's called the bull and the bear case. And you want to be a person that's paying attention to the bull and the bear case, because, you know, no company just ever goes in one direction, right? Goes up or even down. You want to be the investor that can position yourself in the middle to have a balanced perspective where you're not caught up emotionally around any company or any stock. And that essentially can help you to become one of the most elite investors out there, because you can detach from the emotional piece.
I have one question. So I have an 8-year-old son, and I was wondering, how can I get him involved? Are there any apps for children that I could use for him to kind of train him, or maybe a play app where he can learn?
Yes, there is a game on Amazon. I just don't remember the specific name right now. If you can DM me, if you're on Instagram, or just
yes,
say,
I can.
I'll get that resource out to you.
Okay, that was it. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Adriana. All right, as we're wrapping up, I just want to recap, if you will, Rick, on some of the things that you mentioned that we should take very essential pointers in terms of our plans for the future. One of the things that you said to us is we should learn how to invest first. You also said invest in companies that you know and trust. You said that we can research, look into apps, and also different news outlets. Those are important. We can find you and others to the information that you offer for free, and also we can book one-on-one consultations. One of the things that you also recommended is that understanding that freedom is important, right? And I saw someone in the chat, one of my JWOF sisters, she said, it's like slavery prior to, right? When you don't have that financial freedom, if you will, you know, it really drives us into working nonstop and maybe not having time for our families and other engagements. So you also mentioned to us, in terms of day trade, you need to understand technical and fundamental analysis. You also explained that with the options in terms of trading apps, brokerage firms, what is important to focus on. You mentioned the names of some, and you also mentioned that some of these work international. They have international options. Of course, there may be some limitations, but there are international options. What else would you like? What other nuggets would you like to leave with those who are listening to you this afternoon?
And this nugget right here will be the game changer, right? Don't approach investing with a mindset of I need thousands of tens of thousands of dollars, right? Here's why, and I keep saying this. Think about, just go back to budgeting, right? Let's get back to the basics. Look at your monthly expenses, and I guarantee you there's a ton of things that we can all cut, right? Whether it's, I'll take it as, you know, simple as this, an extra $20 a week, $50 a week, whatever that it is that can work for you. Okay, block out the noise. Forget about what everybody else is saying or doing, what you might hear on social media. One of the things is that I try not to do is to post my results or anything like that, whether wins or losses in terms of dollar amount and everything. You know, I had a mentee that said to me, you know, I feel like I'm not accomplishing much. You know, in the first month that I mentored her, one of her very first plays that she did, she had a return of about 60 or 70% on an options. We're talking about within like a week, gaining 60 or 70% on your money. Come on, right? But for her, the dollar amount didn't seem as big as what she saw out there that other people were talking about. Granted, she's just starting out. So I say that to say, look at your individual, you know, situations. Start approaching it as if you were putting away money to save. If you are a person that like to, you know, you're an individual that like to go out for brunches or something like every 2 weeks in a month, scale back, right? Cut back, and let's say, you know, we don't want to just cut it all together. Maybe just go 1 week for a month, right? For 3 to 6 months or something. I talk about develop a habit where you start taking money and you put it into the market, because guess what? If it's food or clothing or for entertainment, that money would have been spent and gone anyway. ding, 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 ding. So that, in a sense, should allow you to take away some of the emotional attachment, because it's not your emergency fund, it's not your rent money, it's not your money. And what's going to happen is that if you approach it and invest it into quality companies, over time, you're going to see the money grow. And that small amount is going to add up, and it's going to excite you to start, guess what? Focusing more on spending less and investing more.
Awesome, all awesome stuff. There's one last question here that I'm going to entertain, because many may have the same question, and that's, can you discuss paying taxes on stocks and what we should know?
Yes.
Last question. We only have a few minutes here.
That's an awesome question. So, we have essentially what's called capital gains, short-term and long-term capital gains. So, and especially, again, I talk about the traders. For us, that's doing day trading as well. We tend to typically cringe at the end of the year, because the capital gains are anywhere between 30 to almost 40%, right? So think about having to give up almost half of your profits. And what short-term capital gains are, it's that any investment or trade that you make under a year and a day is considered short-term capital gains, right? Long-term capital gains are any investment that you make, and I won't even say a trade, you could probably even say a trade too, but as long as you hold the position for 1 day and a year or more, you pay the lower end of the bracket of the capital gains, which is typically around 25% to like 15 to as little as 10%. Now, as an individual, what you can do is to consider creating an LLC, okay? And you can trade or invest under LLC. And the great part about it is that, again, we talk about generational, wealth and bringing everybody along. For everybody that's on this call, I challenge you guys. The information that you guys got here today, essentially, go back out there and share it with a friend or a loved one.
Yes.
Group economics is more powerful than anything else.
Yes.
If you could partner with family members or maybe even friends, loved ones, create an LLC, the brokerages allow for that to happen, where essentially you could limit your tax liability because you're operating as a business versus an individual. But I won't dive too much into like specifics, because again, my individual tax situation based on other sources of income that I have, versus, the positions and my gains will be different from everyone. But that's just a broad summary of what kind of taxes to expect from a capital gains perspective, and how to approach it, from creating it, doing it as a business versus an individual. Obviously, as a business, you'll get more tax breaks essentially. And again, don't forget, your tax professionals that are out there, the CPAs and accountants, all you need to do is to talk to them about your specific situation, and they can help you, right? Leverage the tax laws to the best of, their ability and your advantage, so to speak.